Hello everyone, my name is Tanish Kohli and welcome to this next video on object-oriented programming with Python. So in this video we will see about object and classes. So the official definition of classes is that class is a plan or model to create object. We know that a class is not a real entity. Instead, it is just a plan or a model using which we create real-time entities. An object are also called instances. I will be interchanging these words instances and object, so don't be confused. Objects are also the same, instances are also the same. So object class is base class from which all classes are derived. This is also a very important part of this video because suppose let's just take a class and this class is class A, but there is always a class which is hidden, that is base class, and that class is object class. So this object class will always be inherited, or it will always be base class for A. So without further ado, let's just dive into programming. So let's just see syntax of programming. The syntax is simple, pretty simple. So we start by saying class, and then we provide class name and sorry, and then we write object. Writing object is no, not necessary, but I will show you how this works. And then using these three inverted commas for starting and three inverted commas for closing, we can define a doc string. Doc string is nothing but it just provides information about class. Then we start giving its attributes, or the properties of class. Then we define the init part, in which it is sort of a constructor. I have already told you about that. And then we also define other methods. And again, object class is a base class in Python. Even our all classes are derived from object class only. Let's just see this thing while writing a program. In this program, let's just run this program line by line. It might take a little bit to start the interpreter. Yes, it's online. So let's just first see our first line of this program. It says class student, and inside student it says object. We can also write it like this: class student, and not pass any arguments in this parenthesis. This is also a correct way, but it is much better way of writing a program for beginners, so that we know that something is being inherited. Now we go to our next line, that is define initialize, and we are passing self arguments in this, the not the class part. I will show you the difference between self and class also just in a little bit of while. So till then, let's just see what is happening over here. So in it is defined over here. Now it will not go to this part, as this hasn't been called yet, but it will go to define talk function, which is also taking self arguments, and it will skip again and go to our class student object, and then finish this block of statement. Now what are we going to do? We are actually going to make an object of this class, and this object is Tanishq, my name, and we are passing the class name here. See the syntax: in instance name is equals to class name, and then these two brackets to specify that we are using a class. We run this program line by line. This part will be running again, so we won't be able to see it in this part, but yes, it is now created. We actually haven't called def talk here, so let's just call Tanishq, sorry, capital Tanish dot talk, and then let's just provide this, and let's just run this. Okay, Tanishq is not defined. Yes, I used capital T here. Hello, my name is Tanishq Kohli, my age is 21 and I scored 80. So this is how this is working. How we can also see this thing, let's just take all of them in one class and run this program line by line again. So we have already seen the part where class is defined, init is being specified, talk is being specified, and again we are going to class. Now we are creating an object Tanishq, so that means now it will go to this constructor part, and name, age and marks will be specified with the self keyword. I will tell you this self keyword also, just you know again wait for a little bit. And now all of these three lines will run. Then it will go to next line, that is tanishq.talk. And what this will do, it will now go to this block of statements and print them line by line. Hello, my name is Tanish Kohli, my age is 21 and I scored 80. So this is how this program is running. And yep, that's it. So um, you know here Tanishq is nothing but just an instance of class students. After allocating a memory block, the special method in itself is called internally. This method stores the initial data into variables and it constructs the instance that is called constructor. Finally, the memory address is returned into Tanishq variable. All right. You can also replace this by your name while you are starting it. So let's just see how this is working. First, let's just take a big block. So what is the name of this big block? This big box is actually our class, and the class name is student. Student. We passed object in it, so let's just write object to be just sure that we are doing exactly the same what is happening over there. All right, so here is our student and our object is there. Then we are initializing three other things, that is self.name, self.age and self.marks. So let's just take another text box over here and write it down. you know oh, okay, so we cannot use shift tab. All right, just a minute, let me format this. All right, here it is. Let's resize this so that I can use my pen in between. What is happening here is that self.name is being initialized as Tanishq, self.age is being initialized as 21, self.marks is being initialized as 80. All right, and then we are again defining a talk function and then printing all of these things. So let's just copy this similarly and paste it. All right, so all right, so let's just take this also inside. So now what we are doing is that we are creating an object of this class, and this object is called Tanishq. So let's write Tanishq over here. And now this is also a block of memory and its address is actually Tanishq, not Tanishq, but some other address in binary or hexadecimal. But for us, we are referencing it, this block of memory, as Tanishq. It will have some memory address. Okay, no, it must be clear till now. So what actually is happening, that when we are making self.name, what is happening in our Python module is that it is creating Tanishq.name, where instead of this Tanishq, it is actually address that is being passed through this self function. But you know Tanishq slash address, let's just write address also over here, so you guys don't get confused, is equals to Tanishq. So all right, we have to pass this in string. Yep, that's it. Similarly for self.age is becoming Tanishq slash address.age, self.marks is becoming Tanishq slash address dot marks. So we can see this address in our VS Code when we go to this part, and it says show variables active in Jupyter kernel. You see, like here, this is Tanishq and this is Tanishq and this is the class student. So let's just see its full address. So this is an hexadecimal address, all this part 0x, and after that, that is our hexadecimal address. We can also see this address using a function that is called id, and then let's just pass Tanishq in it. So what it will return, it returns its address in decimal, and we can see the hexadecimal in our active variables. We just saw that. So this is the address that is being passed through our self function. That means whenever we are writing in this, it how it is defining itself, that go to this block of statement, and here the name is defined. So what the name is defined here, it is defined as Tanishq. No, we are only referencing it using our object name, but how our interpreter is understanding it, it is using this address. So yeah, this is something. All right, so let's just do Tanishq.name. What is Tanishq.name? It is Tanishq Kohli. What else we can do is that, let me just check it if this works. If this not works, I am also not sure. Yep, it just worked. So we are seeing that, you know it is still in a lot similar block of memory, somewhat in a shared memory. These first 5 digits are similar, and somewhat a block is created, and in this block all of the similar values, all of the values that are stored in our Tanishq object are stored. And we just say Tanish.talk. So, hello, my name is Tanish Kohli. My age is 21 and I scored 80. So somewhat the concept must be clear that why we are using the self function over here. Self gets replaced by the address, or for our better understanding, it get replaced by whatever name we are referencing that object as. If I say make the object as obj, which then it will be replaced for us by obj instead of Tanishq. All right, so now let's just see self variable, how this self variable is used in Python. So self is a default variable that contains memory address of the current variable of class. See, it just contains the current address, nothing else. It does not take name. We only reference it using our names. So in the above case, the self variable may refer to Tanishq, but in define talk self, in this method, we want to act on the method, then it should know its location, and thus we pass self. See, in this function, what is happening when we are defining this block of statement, this talk function. So this talk function should know that which memory address it should perform this talking on. So this self is, this address stored over here. So it takes this address, goes to this block of statement, this whole thing just gets moved into this block of statement, and then it runs hello, my name is, then it finds what is the self dot name. That means what is the name stored in this address. Just to show you another example, let's just take this and print. I don't know if this will work or not. I'm just also using this for the first time. Okay, we cannot pass it like this. Name invalid syntax. I actually wanted to replace this with Tanishq, but I believe that we cannot do that. Uh, all right, but this is the similar thing. Like if we replace this by Tanishq, and let's just run this Tanishq Kohli. But for our interpreter, what is there? It is its address. All right. Maybe I took the wrong address, or maybe let's just leave it. Let's just go to our self function again, and this init function is called constructor. A constructor is a special method that is used to initialize the instance variable of a class. This parameter is the self, as it contains memory address of the block. Again, let me tell you something about other programming languages. In Java, C++, what happens is that when we define constructor, we don't use underscore underscore in it and again underscore underscore. What we use is we use the class name of that class. But in Python, we don't use the same class name. We use this keyword, this underscore underscore in it underscore underscore is our keyword. So what happens is that whenever an object is created, this part of code will automatically run. Let me show you. If I print something over here, and let's just write print, hey, I never called this function, but it still runs. Okay, so let's just run this. What will happen? Hey, I never called this function, but still runs. See, actually, we are not calling underscore underscore init. Whenever an object is being created, this block of code will always run. So, all right, let's just run this code line by line and see what is actually happening. Again, a class of student is defined. Then the address of underscore underscore init is also passed into this class, and after that, now object is being created. What is the object name here? It is s students. Now just see that what are we passing over here is that in our initialization part, we are passing n as an empty string and m as 0. Okay, and there is also this self always to tell program in which block of memory it has to store. So what will happen is that now it will go to this print statement. Hey, I never called this function, but it still runs. See, this will get printed. And now self.n is equals to n. This n is defined over here, and now the value of n will be passed into self.n. That means this value will be copied into the instance of s. That means now s of s dot n is equals to n for this block of memory. All right, let's move to similarly for self.m is equals to m. Here m is equals to 0 because we are not passing any other parameters. And then we say s dot display, it is going to print hi, and it's going to print marks is equals to 0 because this was an empty string, nothing was there. All right, so this is our line to just separate, nothing to explain in that. Now again, s1 is equals to student, and now we are passing here Tanish Kohli, and we are passing the marks as 80. So what is actually happening over here is that these two variables will be replacing these empty string and this 0 when they will go to our initialize part. See, this is getting printed, and now when we say self.n is equals to n, show instance variable, see, n is of size 14, and here its value is Tanishq Kohli, and in m its value is 80 in our active variables. We can see this. Now let's go to our next line, and then let's just print both of them. Hi self.n, we pass Tanish Kohli, so it should be stored here, Tanish Kohli, and marks equals to 80. All right, so now what we are going to do is that we are going to see the difference between class and self. Okay, so this is a sample class and we are using self here. So let me first all right, let's just get started with self only. So for this, let's go to our whiteboard, clear the canvas, and let's just draw you know 3 classes. Actually, I need to move this whiteboard up. Okay, so here is our main class. Let's take text box class. What's the name of class? It's sample. This is class sample, and we will be creating two objects, s1 and s2. s1, we take this s1 to this part, and we name this s2 as this part. Okay, so now let's just see. We are defining initialize self, and then we are passing self.n is equals to 10. So just for our better understanding, we will say here that self.n is equals to 10. So while creating this object, what will happen is that it will be just copied into this part as well, and the self will get replaced by the address of what? S1. So for our better understanding, we will be writing S1, but this S1 is nothing but address of S1, which will be replaced. So now similarly for our next object S2, S2 also will be created, and let's just replace this self with S2.n for this example. Now we also have a function that is def modify self. So let's also write this thing. This is also part of our main class. So okay, this block of code also goes there, and just um, resizing it so that it fits this whiteboard. All right, now what is happening is that we are calling s1 is equals to sample and s2 dot sample. That means we are defining its object. So let's run this block of code and just wait for a while. It is running. I don't think so. I believe that yes, last line wasn't filled. That's why it is taking a lot of time. Now this block of code is completely ran. Now let's just run this program line by line. S1 dot sample, that means this block of memory is created. S2 is equals to sample, that means this block of memory is created. Now what we are doing, we are printing s1 dot n. What should this return? 10. And then we are printing s2 dot n. This what it is returning 10. Exactly, this is the value. But what we are doing, that we are calling s1 dot modify, and what modify is doing, that it is incrementing the value of n by 1. So that means s1, this function is being called in s1. That means now it will be 10 plus 1, it will now be 11. S1 dot n will be 11, but S2 dot n is still 10. We need to understand that S2 dot n hasn't changed because we are actually not performing any task over there. See, S1 dot n is now 11 and S2 dot n is still 10. So what we understand by this is that when we use self function, what self function do is that it create independent objects that are not dependent on the class and its value. But now what we will do is that we will use class function. Let's just erase this. All right, the block also got erased. So let's just recreate this block. Same function, but what will be different in this, that we will not be using the self keyword, we will be using class function. So instead of self, we use cls, and similarly, since there is no, we are passing the address of class, this will also have class and this will also have class. But how we will, since we are creating object, we will still refer this as s1.n and this as s2.n. But these are not independent copies of our data. Instead, what these are just direct copy of this data. It means we are replicating this whatever value is stored in this part. All right, so we are defining class sample1. We have changed its name as well. Let's change its name over here as well, sample1. Okay, so let's just, sorry, sample1. Let's just run this block of code, and now what we are doing is that we are changing variable names as well, just to be sure about what we are doing is correct. So we are creating s3 is equals to sample.1. That means this s3, s1 is now s3, and this s2 is now s4. We are just renaming our objects. Okay, so now the next line of both of these objects are now created, but they are not having an independent image. Instead, they are just copying whatever value is stored in our class.n. So let's print s3.x, and s4.x. These are 10 and 10. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to modify s3.modify. This function, what this function will do, this function will increment s3 with +1, whatever the value of s3.n or s3.x is. This value is now changed to 11. But what our actual issue is that this is an image of our class. So this function, instead of being performed only on our this instance or only on our this object, will be performed in this part, and now our class.n will be incremented by 1. That means value is now 11, and both of these values now will be 11, instead of just one part being changed, both of the part being changed. Let's just run print s3.x. We changed this value only to 11. We just modified s3, but see the output of s4.x. It is now also 11 because we used class function. What this did, it changed all the values that were stored in our class. So next we will learn about all the methods that are there: instance method, class method, static method. See a little bit more detail on these topics, and yep, that's it for this video. Thank you.